Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm delighted to endorse and echo the fine comments and conclusions of my colleague, the member for Hunua, and as other members have done at the outset, to acknowledge the considerable work of the member for Manurewa, the Honourable George Hawkins, on this issue. I also, Mr. Speaker, would like to acknowledge my predecessor as the MP for Hamilton West, Martin Gallagher, who also demonstrated a determination during his time in this House to confront the problems caused by alcohol abuse in our communities. Martin, as some members will know, is currently a candidate in our local body elections and looks likely, I should say, to Bolton. He has, of course, been a Hamilton City Councillor before and, in fact, was Deputy Mayor before he was first elected to Parliament. And I welcome the prospect that he'll be back on our council again. I look forward to working with him in our respective roles. He and I both welcome this government's decisions to implement the vast majority of the Law Commission's alcohol reform recommendations, and it's very good to have his endorsement of the government's lead in this area. We're both especially pleased at the powers that will be given to councils to implement local alcohol plans. That, of course, is a very important measure that my constituents, our civil leaders, the police, our health providers, social agencies and many others all warmly welcome. In light of those comments, and as we've heard from one or two members tonight, there may be some people watching or listening to broadcasts of Parliament this evening who are puzzled that this bill will be voted down tonight. So I want to stress, as other members have done, that it is neither a slight to the member for Manurewa nor a signal that members are taking these issues lightly. On the contrary, it is because the problems the bill addresses are about to be presented to the House in a much more comprehensive measure, and for that reason only, that the Social Services Select Committee, with Mr Hawkins's agreement, and it was good to have him come along to our committee meeting not so long ago and to talk to us about it, is recommending that this bill should not proceed at this point. So I commend the member for Manurewa for his conclusion that events have overtaken this bill and that his work is done. It's a sensible, pragmatic decision in the circumstances. But I look forward to discussing the measures in this bill and many other related issues when the government's response to the Law Commission's report is introduced in this House in a few weeks from now. I agree with my colleague Chester Borrows that there are some ridiculous arrangements governing the sale of liquor in our communities at the present time, and that we have major problems as a consequence. Almost unfettered access to alcohol is certainly contributing to our binge drinking culture. In turn, it's exacerbating a major health problem that is a special concern of mine, and I didn't know that my good colleague Dr Hutchison was about to mention it as well, but I'm delighted that he has done so, and that is our nation's significant incidence of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. I try to raise awareness of that serious health concern in my electorate whenever I can, especially when I talk to school groups and younger audiences, because it's a tragic fact that hundreds of babies are conceived each year to mothers who have consumed too much alcohol. In many cases, in fact, probably in most, the mother has no intention of becoming pregnant and so drinks dangerously for some time both before and after conception in complete ignorance of the dangerous risk she is taking. It's a lethal error. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is a lifelong disability that can have severe physical and intellectual consequences. It's a tragedy that we hear so little about it, and that so few young people in particular are aware of the serious risk they take in drinking regularly and heavily while also being sexually active. I hope and expect that the more comprehensive bill that we will start considering in this House later this year will provide an opportunity for members to promote much greater awareness of fetal alcohol syndrome and a raft of other alcohol-related concerns. There is certainly a strong desire in Hamilton for vastly improved alcohol legislation. And that is why I say to the members opposite, who have been interjecting regularly throughout the evening, it is important that the government has taken the considered approach that we have given the officials the time they needed to convert the huge array of legislative reforms into workable legislation that will come before the House. The idea that we should somehow rush the measure is actually likely to be a recipe for the mistakes that this Parliament has made in the past, when alcohol reform has come through in too ad hoc a fashion, dealing in a piecemeal fashion with just some parts of the problem. It is right that we tackle this problem comprehensively. That is what the government's response is all about, which will come before the House, and I look forward to debating those measures when it does, because I certainly am committed to ensuring that we get it right this time and that we make a major step in the right direction to tackling our alcohol-related problem in New Zealand. And so, as I said at the beginning, I want to conclude, as I think I'm the last speaker before the member has a chance to sum up, by commending the member for Manarewa once again for his work on this issue, for his pragmatic decision in relation to this bill at this time, and I look forward to all members of this House participating in a very positive fashion towards the implementation of a really improved liquor control regime later on this year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.